The Galactic Empire sat confidently in the heart of its capital, surrounded by the grand architecture that symbolized their dominance. Earth was just another world added to their growing list of conquests. Its defeat had been swift, almost too easy, and that fact was a source of amusement among the Empire's ruling class. They viewed Earth's resistance as laughable, a minor inconvenience quickly swept away by their superior firepower. To them, humanity had shown little more than a flicker of defiance before crumbling under the weight of the Empire's fleet. In the war room, the high-ranking officials gathered, their discussions focused on their next target. Earth's name barely came up, and when it did, it was in mockery. "Primitive species," one officer commented, sipping his drink. "They barely put up a fight. A waste of resources, honestly." Laughter echoed around the room, each remark more dismissive than the last. It was clear that Earth, in their eyes, was nothing more than a footnote in their grand campaign. The fleet commander, who had led the charge against Earth, stood before the council with an air of pride. His report was brief, punctuated with praise for the ease of victory. "Minimal resistance. No significant damage to our forces," he noted. "Their technology is centuries behind ours, no match for even our oldest ships. Earth's defenses crumbled faster than expected. We didn't even need to deploy the full fleet." The council, nodding approvingly, moved quickly on to other matters. Earth had already faded from their focus. As the fleet commander left the chamber, he couldn't help but feel a small pang of doubt. Something about Earth's defeat had unsettled him, though he couldn't quite place it. The humans had surrendered far too easily, almost as if they had expected it. But no one in the Empire had the patience to entertain his concerns. They were far too arrogant to imagine that anything on Earth could pose a threat. The Empire had fought far greater enemies and crushed them without a second thought. What could a backwater planet like Earth possibly do? Back in the capital, the soldiers and officers who had been part of the Earth campaign recounted their tales, often embellishing the ease of the fight. Bars and streets were filled with stories of how Earth fell within days, how the humans seemed almost pitiful in their attempts to resist. To them, the war was over before it even began. However, a small faction within the Empire voiced unease. They weren't high-ranking officials, nor were they in positions of power. Instead, they were the quiet observers, the analysts who had studied the battle data. Some found it strange that Earth hadn't deployed all its forces. Scans had shown numerous military installations that remained inactive during the attack. But in a system driven by pride and hierarchy, their concerns were dismissed. The Empire was too used to winning, too assured in its dominance to consider that perhaps Earth was playing a longer game. The decision was made to send a larger fleet for occupation. After all, the conquest had been swift, but now came the task of fully integrating Earth into the Empire. They would need to install governors, establish Imperial law, and extract resources. The fleet would handle any pockets of resistance that might arise, though none were expected. Earth was weak. Their defeat had proven that. As the fleet prepared for departure, the sense of superiority was palpable. The commanders briefed their troops with speeches laced with overconfidence. "We are the Empire, and we will bring order to the galaxy," one commander announced. "Earth is ours, just as countless worlds before it have fallen to our might." No one questioned the mission. It was routine now, another world, another conquest. They had crushed far stronger adversaries in the past. Earth would be no different. Beneath the surface of Earth, hidden from prying eyes, humanity's true strength lay waiting. What the Galactic Empire perceived as weakness was, in reality, a calculated maneuver. Earth had not been defeated, they had merely given the appearance of surrender. For years, Earth's brightest minds had been preparing for this moment. The Empire's arrival had been foreseen, and humanity's leaders had long ago decided on a strategy that would turn the Empire's arrogance into its downfall. In underground bunkers and remote space stations, Earth's military leaders and scientists worked in secret, developing technologies far beyond what the Empire could imagine. Autonomous weapons systems, stealth drones, and AI fleets had been quietly built up, scattered across the solar system, hidden from view. Earth's defeat was a facade, one designed to lure the Empire into a false sense of victory. The humans knew they could never win a direct confrontation, so they chose instead to let the Empire underestimate them. Earth's leadership had made a choice: to allow the initial invasion to proceed without significant resistance, giving the Empire the illusion of success. Meanwhile, deep space defense platforms were activated and carefully cloaked, out of range of the Empire's scanners. These platforms housed advanced weaponry, controlled entirely by artificial intelligence, with no human operators required. The human fleet itself had been reconfigured to operate under stealth protocols, remaining invisible to the naked eye and undetectable to the Empire's vast array of sensors. This plan had been decades in the making. Earth had played the long game, gathering intelligence on the Empire through covert channels, quietly acquiring knowledge of their tactics, their strengths, and most importantly, their weaknesses. They had studied the Empire's fleet patterns, learned the layout of their ships, and designed countermeasures that would exploit every blind spot the Empire didn't even know it had. And now, the time was near. The Earth Military Command sat deep within the core of their central command bunker, monitoring every movement of the Empire's fleet. From here, they controlled a vast network of weapons platforms and defense drones spread across the solar system. They had been watching the Empire's every move since the so-called defeat. With each passing day, the Empire's overconfidence only deepened, and the humans remained silent, waiting for the right moment. The AI systems had been tested rigorously. These were no simple machines. These were advanced combat systems designed to think, adapt, and fight with the precision and ruthlessness that no human could ever match. Earth's military leaders trusted these systems implicitly. Their strategy depended on it. Every possible scenario had been simulated and accounted for. There would be no mistakes. At the heart of Earth's defense was the AI fleet. Thousands of unmanned ships, each armed with next-generation weaponry, lay dormant in the far reaches of the solar system, cloaked and waiting. These ships were designed not just to defend but to attack in ways the Empire could never predict. The AI systems could communicate with each other at light speed, sharing information, adapting strategies, and executing maneuvers with terrifying efficiency. While the Empire relied on its massive numbers and overwhelming firepower, Earth had chosen speed, stealth, and intelligence as its weapons. In addition to the AI fleet, Earth's hidden orbital defense platforms were armed with railguns, missile systems, and energy weapons, all of which could engage targets from distances that the Empire had thought impossible. These platforms, spread across asteroids, moons, and other celestial bodies, remained cloaked, undetectable by the Empire's technology. But the moment the Empire's fleet crossed a certain threshold, these platforms would unleash a devastating barrage, destroying the Empire's ships before they even realized they were under attack. The decision to remain silent was deliberate. Earth's leaders knew that the longer they waited, the more confident the Empire would become. They wanted the Empire to believe in their victory, to commit fully to their occupation plans, to send their largest fleet into Earth's territory. And then, once the Empire had fully invested in their supposed conquest, Earth would strike. It was not fear that kept Earth quiet, but strategy. Every move had been calculated, every risk accounted for. The humans understood one thing that the Empire did not: wars are not won by brute force alone. Wars are won by intelligence, by patience, and by knowing when to strike. The Empire, in its arrogance, had failed to see the trap being laid before them. They had underestimated Earth, not just as a military force, but as a people capable of innovation, capable of thinking beyond the obvious. It was this underestimation that would be their undoing. The moment of action was drawing near. In the command bunker, Earth's top strategists watched the Empire's fleet inch closer to the planet. They had studied every inch of the Empire's formation, identified every weak spot, and now, as the fleet came within range of Earth's hidden defenses, the time had come. The AI systems were brought online, the fleet activated, and the trap was ready to be sprung. The Galactic Empire's fleet moved through the outer reaches of the solar system with confidence. Thousands of warships, carriers, and cruisers, each armed with the most advanced weaponry known to the Empire, filled the vastness of space. Their commanders felt no urgency. Earth had fallen so easily the first time. This was a routine mission now. The Empire was here to finalize its occupation, set up governance, and extract resources. There was no expectation of resistance, only the methodical process of turning Earth into just another Imperial asset. Communications from the fleet were casual, almost relaxed. Fleet commanders exchanged pleasantries, some even mocking Earth's primitive technology and weak resistance. They were more concerned about who would oversee the new territories and how the spoils of war would be divided than any potential threat. Earth was silent, just as they had expected it to be. No alarms, no distress signals. The calm before the supposed complete domination. As the massive fleet neared Earth, the ships moved into formation, preparing for what they assumed would be a smooth descent into the planet's atmosphere. But something felt off. The scanners weren't picking up much activity, no defense signals, no military presence, no sign of any organized resistance. This had been the case during the initial invasion as well, but now, with an entire fleet hovering over the planet, the silence felt eerie. Some of the more seasoned commanders began to feel a growing unease, though they kept it to themselves, not wanting to appear weak or paranoid in front of their subordinates. Within moments, however, that unease turned into panic. Without warning, every sensor in the fleet lit up at once. Alarms blared as previously undetectable signals suddenly emerged all around them. The fleet's sophisticated systems, designed to monitor and control everything within their vast range, were suddenly overwhelmed by a flood of incoming data. Hundreds of previously invisible ships and defense platforms had appeared on their screens, seemingly out of nowhere. It wasn't just a few craft. Entire squadrons of AI-controlled ships, stealth drones, and orbital platforms were now surrounding the Empire's fleet. The humans hadn't been defeated. They had been waiting. Before the fleet commanders could issue new orders, the first barrage hit. Earth's orbital platforms, armed with long-range rail guns and missile systems, fired with terrifying precision. These were no ordinary weapons. They were capable of striking targets from distances that far exceeded anything the Empire had ever encountered. The energy weapons cut through the Empire's shields with ease, and within seconds several of the lead ships were obliterated. Debris scattered across space, as the Empire's most powerful vessels disintegrated under the onslaught. Chaos erupted within the fleet. Commanders scrambled to regain control, but the AI fleets had already descended upon them. Earth's unmanned ships were faster, more agile, and, most importantly, controlled by artificial intelligence systems that could react in nanoseconds. The Empire's ships, piloted by organic beings who relied on orders and communication chains, couldn't keep up. The AI drones attacked with surgical precision, exploiting every weakness in the Empire's defenses, targeting key systems, disabling engines, and rendering their weapons useless before the Empire even had a chance to fire back. The fleet's communications were in disarray. Frantic orders were being given, but the chain of command had collapsed. Ships that tried to regroup found themselves cut off from their allies. Earth's forces were not fighting head-on. They were attacking in coordinated waves, hitting the Empire from multiple angles at once, confusing their sensors, and overwhelming their defenses. It was a slaughter. The Galactic Empire, in all its might, was being systematically dismantled by a force they hadn't even considered a threat. As the battle raged on, the Empire's commanders realized the full extent of Earth's deception. This was no mere retaliation. This was a carefully laid trap, one that had been set long before the Empire had ever arrived in Earth's solar system. The humans had allowed the Empire to believe they had won, only to strike at the exact moment when the Empire was at its most vulnerable. The arrogance of the Empire, their blind belief in their own superiority, had led them directly into Earth's ambush. One by one, the Empire's ships were destroyed. Massive cruisers that had once terrorized entire star systems were reduced to nothing more than burning wreckage. Carriers, filled with thousands of soldiers and equipment, were ripped apart by AI drones before they could even deploy their fighters. The few ships that tried to escape were quickly hunted down, their engines disabled by precision strikes from Earth's orbital platforms. There was no escape. In the span of a few short hours, what had once been the pride of the Galactic Empire's military was nothing more than debris, floating aimlessly in the void of space. The fleet, which had been sent to secure Earth's final defeat, was now utterly destroyed. The few survivors were left to drift among the wreckage, stunned by the realization that they had underestimated the very species they had thought so little of. The Galactic Empire had been so certain of their victory, so sure of their superiority, that they had never even considered the possibility of defeat. But now, as their once mighty fleet lay in ruins, they were forced to confront a new reality. Earth was not weak. Earth was not primitive. Earth had played them from the very beginning, and now the galaxy would see humanity in an entirely new light. The wreckage of the Galactic Empire's fleet floated silently in the void of space, a stark reminder of the overwhelming defeat they had just suffered. The once mighty armada, thought to be invincible, had been decimated in a matter of hours by a force the Empire had dismissed as weak and insignificant. Earth's retaliatory strike had been so precise, so devastating, that it left no room for the Empire to regroup or mount a counterattack. The Empire's confidence, its hubris, had led them to this moment, complete and utter annihilation. The few survivors aboard the remaining ships sat in stunned silence. Their communications were down, their weapons systems destroyed, and their engines disabled. There was no escape, no hope of reinforcements. The Empire had been blindsided, its arrogance shattered by the very species they had once mocked. Earth had not only survived but had delivered a crushing blow that would ripple across the galaxy for years to come. Back on Earth, there was no celebration, no grand display of victory. The operation had gone exactly as planned. The AI-controlled fleets returned to their cloaked positions, the defense platforms powered down, and humanity quietly resumed its daily life. The humans had no desire for glory or recognition. Their goal had never been conquest, it had been survival. And now, they had secured it in the most definitive way possible. In the command bunker, the Earth's military strategists reviewed the data from the battle. Every move had been calculated, every contingency prepared for. The AI systems had performed flawlessly, executing the plan with a level of precision that no human force could have matched. There were no casualties on Earth's side. The Empire had been dismantled without a single human life lost in the final battle. It was a victory of intelligence, of strategy, and of patience. Messages from other planets within the Empire's control began to flood in. Word of the Empire's defeat had spread quickly, and now the galaxy was watching. The once dominant Empire had been dealt a blow from which it might never recover. Earth had shown the galaxy that strength was not solely measured by the size of one's fleet or the power of one's weapons. True strength lay in the ability to adapt, to plan, and to strike at the right moment. Earth had proven that, beyond any doubt. The political landscape of the galaxy began to shift almost immediately. Other planets that had once lived under the shadow of the Empire now saw an opportunity. Rebellions broke out in distant star systems, inspired by Earth's victory. The Empire, now weakened and disorganized, could no longer maintain control over its vast territories. Its fleets, spread thin across the galaxy, were vulnerable, and without the central command structure that had been destroyed in Earth's ambush, they were easy targets for insurgents and freedom fighters. The galaxy was entering a new era. Earth, once thought to be a minor, backwater planet, had become a symbol of resistance and resilience. But the humans had no interest in expanding their influence beyond their own solar system. They had achieved what they set out to do: secure their home, protect their people, and show the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. They would not seek power or dominance. They would simply watch and wait, ready to defend their planet if the need ever arose again. For the surviving members of the Galactic Empire, the aftermath of the battle was one of shock and disbelief. They had been conditioned to believe in the Empire's invincibility, in its unchallenged dominance over the galaxy. But now, as they floated among the wreckage, they were forced to confront the reality that the Empire's reign had come to an end. They had underestimated Earth, and that mistake had cost them everything. In the weeks that followed, the remnants of the Empire attempted to regroup, but without their fleet, their influence began to crumble. Earth's victory had exposed the Empire's weaknesses, And now, planets across the galaxy were rising up. The centralized power that had once held the galaxy in an iron grip was falling apart, and Earth had played a crucial role in its unraveling. But for the people of Earth, life continued as it always had. The humans knew that they had done what was necessary to survive, and that was enough. They didn't seek recognition or praise from the rest of the galaxy. They didn't need it. Their actions had spoken louder than any words ever could. Earth had defended itself against one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy, and they had done so with intelligence, strategy, and precision. In the end, the Galactic Empire had learned a harsh lesson. They had thought Earth's defeat was weak, a mere formality. But in their arrogance, they had failed to see the true strength of the human race, a strength that lay not in brute force, but in the ability to think, to plan, and to strike when the time was right. And now, as the shattered remains of their fleet drifted through the empty void, the Empire knew that they had been wrong all along. Earth was not weak. Earth was stronger than they could have ever imagined.